Hey everybody, welcome back to Vegas Tips and Tricks for Saturday, October the 5th, 2019. We're completely back after a whirlwind week in Las Vegas. I hope that you checked out the vlog. If you haven't, please do. A lot of fun footage and shenanigans going on there. I think at least a couple of the days I thought were some of the best vlogs I've done. I'm certainly no Dave or Nikki as far as my editing skills, but I thought that was pretty good on a couple of these. So, and of course, as I've been posting on the social media, there's a ton of people vlogging about Las Vegas right now, many of whom are listed in the links below. So check out the Friends of Vegas Tips and Tricks if you want more fun Vegas footage. Speaking of more Vegas footage, we will be having more coming up on Wednesday. Another little housekeeping detail, I'm not sure what sort of a program we will have next Saturday. I'll be out of town Friday evening and Saturday, so whether I'll put together some sort of an abbreviated show or put up some of my Vegas footage. We'll have something up next Saturday, but don't expect the studio in full force first thing on Saturday morning next week. This week we're actually not going to do a sort of tips and tricks broadcast in the way that we have for the past several months. This is almost going to be more of a podcast because I'm going to talk about some Las Vegas news that's happened over the last, well, several months in some cases, but many of the events have kind of come to a head in the past few weeks, and I haven't had a chance to talk about them, so I'm going to talk about them a little bit today. And it all revolves around changes at some Las Vegas properties. And we're going to start with one that's been rumored on the sale block. Is that a word? I think it is. Rumored to be for sale, and probably almost certainly has been available for the right price for a decade or more, and that's the Rio Hotel and Casino. Once one of the shining stars of Las Vegas, and of late a bit of I don't know, a bit rusted, a bit worn. Definitely in need of some love and affection. Caesars has poured a lot of money into their strip properties over the past few years, renovating almost all the rooms, but nothing for the poor Rio, which gets an influx of gamblers once a year for the World Series of Poker. It is has always been a budget spot for people just looking for a place to lay their head. It's a big convention center there, so you have sort of a lot of medium-sized conventions that get booked in there. And of course, you've got Penn and Teller, so there's some shows. There's some good food. The buffet, the last time I ate there, was still pretty good. You have Kiss Mini Golf. I mean, what's not to love, except it's just kind of off the strip. They did away with the shuttle a while ago. And it's just been very clear that this was sort of the Jon Snow of the Caesars Stark household, for you Game of Thrones fans. And they finally sold it. Well, kind of. I mean, they have sold it, as long as all of the approvals go through. But Caesars is going to continue to operate the property for the next couple of years. Speculation being there that the buyer was not yet prepared to make a decision on what they wanted to do with the property, but also it gave Caesars the opportunity to continue to hold the World Series of Poker there, certainly next year and possibly the year beyond. Now they are building a events center sort of thing behind the link. There's a lot of construction going on there if you've driven by, particularly if you've driven by behind on Koval. And that's going to be some sort of an events center convention space as well, and the speculation is that they're eventually going to move the World Series of Poker there, as they did not sell that brand. So it's been pretty lucrative for them. So the Rio is probably going to remain in limbo for a couple of years, and then it'll be anybody's guess what this investment company decides to do with it. Will they tear it down? Will they renovate it? There's a lot of space on that property. So there's a lot of potential there. There's been the speculation that it's going to become a baseball stadium. But I don't think the betting line would be that it's going to be a baseball stadium. It would only be a baseball stadium if somehow Las Vegas acquired a team, which they haven't yet. So that's the Rio. So No real changes likely there for a couple of years, but at least there's some prospect for the Rio's future. Like the Rio, the Sahara slash SLS slash Sahara suffers from being just a bit outside of the main tourist corridor. It finally did in the old Sahara quite a number of years back. It was purchased, renovated, and turned into the SLS. I stayed at both properties, the original Sahara, which was a great budget choice. Wasn't the best location, but it was cheap, which was important to me. And at the SLS a few years, year or so after they opened, I liked the SLS, but quite clearly not enough people did. The casino was always rather empty, and I found the place was overpriced for the location. They drew in people for sort of club and pool related events, but that wasn't enough to sort of maintain things, and so the SLS was sold off a while back to the same people that own the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno, and recently they announced plans to, and they've executed those plans, to change the property back to Sahara from SLS. So there are ongoing renovations taking place in the casino and the public areas there. I've heard it's a bit disruptive, so if you're planning to stay there, keep that in mind. I have, nothing but positive regard for this property, and I hope that it grows and succeeds and does well, but I am skeptical. Just as I'm skeptical about the Rio and skeptical about another property I'll talk about here in a minute. And that is, these properties are simply too far outside of where people want to be. And the only way you're going to draw people in is because you attract some special class of customers that need to be where you are. Sahara does have pretty close access to the convention center. It's walkable, but you've also got access to the monorail, which will take you right there. So that's a positive, but there's not a lot else going on around Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard. I mean, there's a dispensary there, right across the street, so maybe that's an option for you. But as much as I've enjoyed the property, and like I said, with the monorail, it does have pretty good access to the rest of the strip. If you don't mind, hiking a little bit, it's not bad at the SLS, but obviously you go down to MGM Grand, it's quite a bit of a hike to get actually to the casino at MGM Grand. So I don't know, I hope they do well. I'm a little skeptical about it. Every time one of these properties starts to lose money and become a somewhat unsuccessful property, someone spends a lot of money to buy it, fix it up, make it more upscale, and raise the prices, which does not seem like it makes sense. On the other hand, we have Circus Circus, which was also just sold to the man who owns Treasure Island, who owned the New Frontier way back in the day, Phil Ruffin. Now, Mr. Ruffin has been a successful casino operator. Treasure Island is still a pretty nice place to stay and play. He's not been known as someone who invested a lot of money in his properties, so it will be very interesting because, if anything, Circus Circus desperately needs renovation of its public areas. I really struggle to think of any major property in Las Vegas whose casino floor and public areas are more run down. It's practically depressing to walk through there. And I'm not a big fan of Circus Circus, never have been. It doesn't appeal to my demographic. They have a demographic, that's sort of middle class, working class families with children. I don't really like to be around that many children when I'm in Las Vegas. Outside of the manor rooms out back, which hopefully they'll demolish, the rooms are not bad here. I mean, they're not great, but I mean, they're not terrible. It's not like the Travelodge or something like that. So, but it's just not a property that draws me in. I have gone in there a few times recently because I've been down on that end of the strip filming around Resorts World, but otherwise I probably wouldn't. So I don't know what he's planning to do, whether they'll link the slot clubs. Circus Circus was always, again, sort of the stepchild of the MGM properties. They barely acknowledged that they owned it. It had its own separate slot club. Maybe they can run a free monorail thing from Treasure Island over to Circus Circus, and it can stop at Resorts World. At least Circus Circus does have the advantage of being right next door to the hopefully soon to be open Resorts World. So we'll see if that helps. I just hope, I don't want them to tear it down. I mean, I don't like the property particularly, but I would like it to be a nicer place. You know, we've seen sort of rundown casinos downtown that have been renovated, and while they're not spectacular, they're clean, they're comfortable places to, you know, spend some time. Circus Circus doesn't have to become the Wynn. If it just became Bally's or Flamingo, it would be a huge improvement. So let's hope we get that. So a lot of news about hotels changing ownership and kind of changing things. We've also had ongoing renovations at the Stratosphere, which is now the Strat. And from what I've seen there, that's looking good. But again, that's a property that's going to have to market itself, to me, to budget travelers. It's going to have to be a place that you're going to want to stay just because it's significantly cheaper than staying somewhere center strip. Same thing with Sahara, same thing with Rio, same thing to some degree with Circus Circus. So whether or not the owners, the current owners, future owners of these properties will see it that way, I don't know. But I suspect their best chance of having any kind of success is to appeal to the budget travelers, have good deals on gambling and food, make appeal to locals. Sahara, for example, is very accessible to the rest of Las Vegas. It's a really easy in and out, so has that advantage as well. What do you think about some of the changes in Las Vegas hotels? Are you happy at least to see the Rio and Circus Circus be spun off to have sort of a second chance at life? I know I am. Do you not care at all and you want me to just go back to talking about Caesar's Palace? I can do that too. Anyway, I do want to thank everybody. We hit, as you saw in the video, me drinking the horrible Caesar. We did get to 800 subscribers. We're actually up to 830. So if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. Like the video. Hit that notification bell if you want to know anytime we do videos. Usually it's Wednesday and Saturday, but sometimes there'll be a special video I'll throw up for that. And of course, make sure to click on all of our social media links below. Been having an enormous amount of activity in the Facebook group. We're now closing in, I think, on 1,100 members. So that's been a lot of fun. A lot of people there that have questions and a lot of people there that have answers. So it's been a really nice give and take as far as the interactions there. And of course, you want to see me make fun of Mark Anderson every day. Follow me on Twitter. That's also in the links below. And of course, check out the links to the Friends of Vegas tips and tricks because you'll want to be watching all the great videos that are out there. We're going to wrap it up for today. I think we've talked way long enough. We will see you in some form next Saturday. Hope that you have a great and lucky week. And as always, we will see you soon.